before he went into the army. When he got out of the army, he did all the soundtracks and stuff, and then I couldn't do it.
Oh, Elvis Live is inspiring no matter who you are.
The comeback special is awesome.
Oh my gosh, 1960, that was amazing.
I have that outfit. I know, I really don't.
I wear it on weekends.
You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jordan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before it, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jordan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. I'm trying to time the little hop. And so I was jumping around like a...
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's like a...
Please.
Like a jumping bean. What were they? Oh, I can't even say it anymore. I used to say...
They were called
Crispin Cruz is coming on today. We can call him a Mexican jumping bean. I mean,
oh God!
I mean, it's exactly.
He's not here for long. He's not here for long. You started saying stuff like that. You never know.
Oh my gosh! So I went to a graduation this weekend.
Oh,
and
mazel.
Uneventful. But you know, when I go to these graduations, here's let me tell you, it's awesome being the Deej. I'm thankful every day. But there are certain expectations that are placed upon me, not for mortal man. And one of them is when you go to any form of graduation, you know, I'm expected to make a big deal. I'm expected to scream and project and make a fool out of myself. Like that's the thing. It's almost like the people that I'm with, they're seeing the person about to graduate and they all turn their heads towards me, like I'm supposed to do. So that's one of the things. So this week I went for Vincent, you know, the boy.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And so Vincent is attempting to be the husband of my daughter. And
I think he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. And so with that, so we went there, and so she was very excited and nervous. So I went there, and here's the thing. I have not been to colleges in a long time in these type of events. We're just getting back out to all this stuff. And there's new rules. So I just, haphazardly, I just have, I always have like a little pocket knife on me. And so I walked into the place and did the whole thing. A guy swarm around me like I'm a terrorist. It's the craziest thing, like real fear in their eyes. You can't have that here. You can't, and so people around.
Somebody was doing like Brazilian jiu-jitsu on you. You had like a chokehold. No,
actually, to be fair, he was fairly, he was respectful, and he came up and, with a policeman there. And then, he's there and he says, stood right in front of me, like you look at me square in the eye. You can't have. And so anyway, I said, well, can I put it outside? And he said, yeah, you can come in, just not the knife. So I went outside and I put it in some mulch and I got it back later. And but I would thought to myself, that guy that approached me I put him in such an uncomfortable position. I put him in such an area where he had to, he had to confront me. And I'm not, an imposing figure, but it was obvious that I wasn't there for terrorism, and he was worried about offending me to ask. So I put him in a bad position to do that. I made him comfortable. And so I immediately thought of sales. And I immediately thought, this guy, I like him. Like I would buy from this guy because he had the courage to do that. And it just so happens that our guest today is the best that I've ever seen at making people uncomfortable. And I mean that in a good way, and I'm going to have him explain it. But it's a good opportunity that I get to learn from who I think is a master at ruining other people's lives. So please, without any further ado, please help me welcome my good friend and mentor, Mr. Crispin Cruz.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
Woo. I like the Mexican jumping beat. I am that. I'm that
Yeah.
guy. I'm that guy. I love it. I love it.
I tell you what,
Thank
you were
you.
talking about him making people feel uncomfortable, Dan. I can see his screen backstage,
Yeah.
and he was making me uncomfortable because I was seeing what he was doing on camera while you were
That's
talking
right.
about him. I don't know if you were taking
did
a
you
look
take
at
off
that.
your
That's
shirt
right.
again? It was
It's beautiful. It's
one of
beautiful.
those one of those things. No, I actually have been on sales calls with Crispin where he's really good at kind of finding the pain, but most people just kind of find the pain and then just go with it. He finds the pain and then a truckload of salt and just puts it into that wound and keeps it burning and burning and burning. Oh, so what would happen if you didn't make that sale? Well, we probably miss our quarter. And what would that mean to you? Well, I run the risk of getting fired, and you're already there. Well, and if you got fired, how would that affect your marriage? And he just keeps on digging and digging and digging. And I goes, how much? And so,
I love it. I love it.
but what it
That's
does is when you find that pain, it gets people off. So, Cruzy,
Yes, sir.
my man,
Yes, sir.
with
I'm
that,
here.
what do you think of that intro, by the way?
It's great. It was great, Dan. Thank you. And you know what? I tell you, even at the beginning of your show, what resonates with me so loudly is when you were talking about, because what you're really talking about is identity and role. And we talk about that a lot in our training, identity and role. And what is that? What do those two things have to do with one another? Well, when that guy came up to you and he was battling with his identity and his role. His role was to keep people safe and to make sure that no one enters with things or objects that they're not supposed to have at that event, right? And so that's his role. The role that he was playing was security, right? But his identity was tugging at that role because he's not built that way. He doesn't like confrontation. He doesn't want to have to walk up to you and ask you to remove the item or where it's at and then force you to take it back to your car or go hide it in the mulch or whatever, And so we always have this, challenge of our identity and our role and how they're kind of impacting each other, especially in sales.
Well, so how does it work in sales? I mean, when you're talking about identity, so my role is a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there to sell,
right?
I mean, by definition,
yes,
that's right. That's what you do.
Okay.
Well, so what do people think their role is if they're not?
Well, I think it's that comment that you just made, Dan. You made this comment that you're, by definition, I'm there to sell. Now, sales means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. See, I've kind of changed that mindset, and I'm not going in to make a sale. I'm going in to have a conversation. I'm going in to try to have a high level of engagement with my prospect. I'm going in to try to understand, is there a compelling reason for them to want to buy my product or service now or in the very near future, right? And so by definition, I guess that's a sale. But I think the mindset is I'm going in to have a conversation. I want to understand if there's a fit. And if there is, great. And if there isn't, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't want to put all that pressure on myself. I want to put the pressure where it belongs, which is on the prospect. And how do we do that? We do that through questioning strategies. And we do that in trying to have a high level of engagement by understanding the behavior type of your buyer and then trying to mirror and match that as well.
Right.
Do you think in this scenario, Dan, I'm sorry, like in this scenario, the person came up to you, and I think this totally aligns with sales and this mindset that Crispin's talking about. When he came up, his mindset was probably, I want to protect the people here. I see this as a potential problem that might happen. I don't really know this person, and he's going to make someone else uncomfortable if they see he has this potential weapon, which, I mean, whatever. So his mindset was, I want to protect, right? As a salesperson, if your mindset is, I want to go in and I want to sell this person, it's the wrong way to be. Instead of walking in and saying, this person has this problem and I'm going to protect them. I'm going to solve it for them. I'm going to do these things for it. Am I on the right track there?
You're right. But listen, in every conversation, a transaction is taking place. Somebody's buying and selling. It's not necessarily a product or service. A lot of times it's just an idea. You want someone to come along to your way of thinking. His approach to me, and it may have been out of fear, was, or like not wanting to live that role, was mildly confrontational. You can't have that here. He actually said, you can't be here with that. And so I didn't hear with that. All I hear is you can't be here. So it took me a second to get it. So that his approach is basically a cold call. Crispin Cruz, I have an idea, and I'll keep talking forever. But if you had to approach somebody like that, or you had to train somebody to approach on that cold call that he made with me,
right?
And for this to be the example, but it seems to work. What could have been? How would you suggest that somebody approaches somebody in that situation?
Well, first of all, I would try to, what you want to do is diffuse any potential situation at the beginning. Yeah. And so in the sales world, we call that a softening statement, right? And in this example, I would walk up to you and I would say, "Hi, I'm with the campus, security, and I want to introduce myself really quick. I'm Chris Cruz. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Dan Jordan."
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Dan Jordan. Yeah. And then I'd be watching you and watching for your nonverbals as well as your verbals, and see if I could pick up on whether or not you were more aggressive. You're more like a D behavior type in the DISC. If you're more aggressive, if you're more I, outgoing, influential, or if you're C, like more calculated, or analytic, or if you're S, like if you're like if you're taking a couple steps back and you're just not sure about me, right? So I would be utilizing the DISC to right from the beginning to try to understand what kind of behavior type am I dealing with here, right? And then once you start to engage with me and I can pick up on those little clues, then I would start mirroring and matching that behavior type as I was going through to explain, the reason why we're having the conversation. Right.
Yeah. You see, that's exactly right. And by the way, for those watching, that happens in an instant. You could read somebody's facial expressions in an instant. One of the reasons why I like using video so much in prospecting, even on LinkedIn, was what we're talking about, is because if you think about it, when you were a baby, you read faces before you knew what a face was. You read people's faces and understood that was how you communicated. Before you had words, you knew how to read people's faces. One of the biggest challenges during the whole situation is everybody's wearing these muzzles. You couldn't read faces. People it slowed down their development because they weren't able to read faces. It's a very important thing, but you could pick that up right away. But that's exactly right. When you're making that softening statement, the favorite one that I like to use for everything is the 7 magic words. Hey, I wonder if you could help me. My name's Dan. 8. Yeah. Well, the hey is the 8.
Well, now it's good. 11. My name's Dan.
No, I'm not. I wonder if you can help me. That's the 7 magic words. Hey is good too, though. Hey, listen, I wonder if you can help me.
Wait,
I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
I was told there would be no math.
Right, exactly. I was told there would be no math on the show.
That's right. It's the square root of 49 words that we
you said that during COVID and all the masks and everything. Yeah,
I don't use that word.
I know.
All right.
I'll bleep it next time.
Yes.
that
I'm much
we
happier
got
with the China
worse.
virus.
We got worse at reading faces. I might argue that if you look at it a certain way, you try to get better in, with the masks on. Like how, it's almost like when you lose a perception of some sort, you lose your hearing. Maybe you get better at vision. Maybe you get better at, something else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that, now we're, quote unquote back, and, there's still people that are wearing, muzzles, as you said. So, and that's not going to go away. Like, people will still wear those. So there will be potential interactions with people that have masks on. So we have to be able to still do what we do, not being able to read those types of things. Like, if for that instance, like if I have a mask on, and, typically, so it's covered from here up, right? So are we looking into the eyes? Are we actually, leaning in and hearing what they're saying in order to get more clues like that? Is that something that maybe those skills were sharpened during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I have an answer for that. I mean,
Yeah,
I
cool.
believe that they were sharpened because you couldn't see the facial expression. And I also believe that just means that all of the other senses have to get so much better. Like your tonality, your talk track, your listening skills, like all of those things had to get better during that time. And even, I mean, Dan, you and I had gone round and round about this, but my belief system was, and I know my glass is always half full. I mean, this glass could be, have one drink left in it and it's always half full, right? Because that's the way I'm built. But you and I had long conversations about this, Dan, and we talked about the fact that my belief system was that cold calling in early 2020, after the pandemic, we'll call it that. I believe that actually helped us to start to focus more on our tonality, to start to focus more on our talk track, on our speech patterns, on the way that we're focusing on communicating our value proposition, like things like that. So I think that there was a little bit of a shift there.
I agree. I'm always find it amazing how two really intelligent people could be so wrong about so much. But I want to. I want to share.
Are you talking about yourself and Crispin here? Or
No, I thought he was talking about you and him.
Yeah, but you called me intelligent. I don't know about that.
Of course, you're right. And I think, by the way, it's a benefit. To have struggles is a benefit. I'm a big fan of making things harder, not easier. It shouldn't be easy to cold call. It shouldn't be easy to sell. It shouldn't be. If it was easy, anybody could do it. You gotta work through those things, and that makes you better. Act like Dan Jordan. You have flappy arms. Go to the flabby arms. Are you kidding me?
I think he's saying flappy. Like it was related to the LinkedIn post where you said,
if
you want to come flap your arms.
Well, that's right.
So Fusey's coming in there. But like, doing this stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, let me finish. I was for us, yes, that may be the case. I was thinking on a more global scale. How it's easier to learn a foreign language when you're young. Your mind just picks things up and you just got it, and it's easy to do it then. When you get a little older, it gets a little more difficult. You have other stuff fighting in there. So for people like us and people in the field who are trying to work on yourselves, absolutely. It's been a great benefit. There's always opportunity in there. I'm thinking more specifically about young kids, from newborns to 6, going to school, doing all that, those formidable years where they're learning all those things, that puts a delay on them in the future. And those are the people that you'll be working with later on. And so there'll be a totally different disc type of person there.
Do you know where it got better? It got better for people doing video. Doing video to video in mail on LinkedIn. This is what we call a segue. And prospecting on, quote unquote, safer avenues, platforms, social media, live video, podcasting, all of those things obviously went up, continue to do that. So people are getting better at that. People are getting better. I mean, Dan, when I first met you, you were doing video, you had a YouTube channel, and but you were begging for people to be subscribers. Now you do at least one video a day, and you're off into the stratosphere as far as a YouTuber.
Sometimes I'll get 3 people watching my videos. I mean, it's huge.
It's incredible. It really is.
All right. So Crispin Cruz.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, because I think that there's 2 parts of the sale. There's the front end and the back end. And I think there's different technologies between lead generation and, set appointment setting and the actual sales process. I've never met anybody better on the sales process than you. You won't skip a beat. You won't, no matter what, they're going through every segment. You're not going to miss anything. Even when they're like, yes, I'd like to buy. Not yet. Hold on. I got to lock the door behind you. But those skills, well, tell me what you think the difference is from the front end and the back end.
It's like 2 different, completely different animals. They're, I mean, one's a bear, one's a cheetah. I mean, they're not even close. I mean, I've always believed. And I love it when somebody says, I'm a sales and marketing expert. I love it when I hear that. I'm like, I've never found one. If you're a sales and marketing expert, I've never found that person. Like those, to me, that's 2 completely different skill sets. And
sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing. The lead generation, driving leads, all of that is a completely different skill set, process. That's siloed in its own area, just like sales technique, sales management, sales recruiting, all of those items that are sales siloed, 2 completely different things. And so you better have a process for it. You better have somebody that's helping you with it. Or if you're doing that yourself, then you better have some formidable process that you can leverage to get more at bats, to get in front of more potential prospects and have more conversations.
Yeah, you can't even play around with the sales process. You can't find the pain and do that stuff unless you get you get enough at bats, you get enough chances in there.
That's
and
right.
So when you're training people, so your company, what's the name of your company?
Sales Arbiter. Yeah.
Sales Arbiter.
Yeah. Thank you.
What does that mean, by the way?
What does it mean?
I know what arbitrage is.
Yeah. No, arbiter, to be an arbiter, follow social trends, social scale, what's happening out there in the world. And that's what an arbiter does. Yeah. We bring the 2 together, right? We arbitrate. We bring the 2 together. So and we do that with sales, right? And so what we're trying to do, and what we do for a lot of our clients, currently, is we just help them grow. We find the sales processes, we find the sales talent, we help them to recruit, we train, mentor, and we put them through a whole program that helps them get foundationally better at growing their company and making sure that leadership has visibility into what's going on in sales.
What do you mean by that?
A lot of times we go in and they could be, Dan, they could be companies that are 2 million, 5 million. I mean, I've been in companies 8 to 10 million, and they don't have the amount of visibility that they need to be able to see how are their sales personnel, how are their salespeople performing, right? What goals are they being held to? Do those goals align with the organizational goals to grow? I mean, they just simply don't have the tools to have visibility to be able to look in and kind of peer through that window to really see how their sales are developing, to see how the initiatives are growing. They don't have those foundational tools in place to be able to do that.
Well, so how do you deal with this stuff with all the remote workers right now too? And do you think that is helpful or harmful?
Oh, I don't see it as maybe either. I just see it as that is where we're at today, is that a lot of organizations, have had to change their model because what happened during the pandemic, a lot of the sales reps, a lot of account managers, a lot of employees got pushed back home, right? They were forced to work from their home. So now you have a lot of blended sales programs out there where they have inside sales reps, they have outside sales reps, and even some of them are performing the same role. It's just that they're living in a more digital world.
Well, how do you keep those guys motivated or gals motivated to keep on going after new organic business? It seems like a lot of time has been spent doing a lot of marketing and getting, incoming leads. And that kind of goes away after a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we do is we look at every single role in the organization, Dan, and we go in and observe, because we're not just going to come in and uproot your whole program. I mean, there's reasons why the organization that you work with or for has gotten to where it is today, right? And so that's a big piece of it. And so we go in and we observe and we see what's working and maybe the areas that you've had challenges in. And then we come in and we say, okay, what role are you supposed to be playing with the organization? We know that you have the title of sales manager. We know you have the title of sales rep. We know you have the title of account manager, but what is the role definition to that? Like, what are you expected to do when you walk in that morning or when you turn on your computer that morning? And what are you expected to do throughout that day before you turn off your computer or you walk out that door at the end of the day? And so then we start looking at role definition. And then we say, okay, what are the behaviors that you need to have throughout your workday to get to your goal, to perform your role in the right way? And so we put together.
I would hate you. That's exactly. Imagine saying that to your kids. Now, what do you think would the appropriate thing to do if you want your room to be clean? What do you think you should do every day before you go to bed?
Listen, we don't do.
You're forcing me to say, you know what? You're like my wife at this point. Why did you put the fork in this thing instead of the other thing? And the answer to all her questions is because I'm an idiot. All right.
Yeah.
Because I made a mistake. I don't want to say that. So actually, a lot of people have become coaches now. Right. Not wanting. A lot of managers have become coaches. This is a good lesson you can teach them. How can you help somebody help themselves without forcing them to say, because I'm an idiot?
Right. Well, hold that thought for a second, because I want to back up on something that you said. You said, I would hate you, right? Well, how do we make sure that we don't have that response from team members that have been producing well for the organization? We don't want them to, who's this guy that came into our organization? He's uprooting everything. He's making everything different. He's doing all these things, right? We don't want to have that as part of the culture. Nobody wants that, right? So we don't do anything in a vacuum, Dan. We don't do anything in a vacuum. Like we're collaborating with the existing team. We're making sure that they have a good understanding of what we're trying to do to grow the organization. We're setting those goals together. Like we're doing this in a very collaborative way. It's not like we're just coming in and imposing our will on them and saying, here's what we expect you to do now, guys. Let's go after it. Let's go get it. Right. Yeah, that never, ever works. That is number one. That's the number one recipe for failure, is if you just come into an organization and you uproot it and then you're like, just do it my way because I know best. You want to turn over culture. You want to fail that company. You want to make sure that people are not walking, but running out your door. Then do that.
Well, that's it. Well, so Jim Fuse talked about social selling skills and stuff. And I think that's true. Do you expect your individual contributors to do things like that? Let's say you're part of an organization that has 8 to 10 salespeople, something like that. Do you expect the company to do that social outreach or the individual to do it? What's your opinion on that?
You know what, Dan? I'm going to toss that one back to you because I'd like to know your opinion on it. I really
Uh-huh.
would. I'd like to know your opinion on it, and then I will answer. But I'm curious on what you would think about that piece because you have done this and you're doing it effectively now, and I'd like to
Effectively.
know a little bit more about and I'd like the audience to hear it too because I've heard some of the success stories that you're having.
He says effectively now. One day I had a conversation, Chris Stone, with Crispin Cruz. And I said, listen, I got to do, I got to go because I got to do something. He goes, yeah, he goes, go ahead. Do all that stuff that's not making you any money. Have fun. And then he
Nice.
hung up. Yeah, do all that pissant stuff, which is actually right because I had to change my focus and I put a call to action into things and to get it going. Sometimes you need to get punched in the face a little bit. And so I
Just a
appreciate
little
that.
bit.
Social, I'm a big fan about, an army of one, a sales army of one, the self-employed nation type of mindset. I've said this 1,000 times, so Chris Stone has heard it, but it's like, the Eastern European immigrant that's coming here with going balls to the wall, in your face, get it done. The streets are paved with gold, rock and roll. Who cares? I got nothing to lose attitude.
Yeah.
That person is destined to succeed, but that person would not in a million years give up the control that they have for their own destiny by letting somebody else putz around with their social media where they can get in front of the whole world. They wouldn't dare. A small businessman, entrepreneur, does not give away the money making, the interest creating, the attention getting, the marketing aspects that make them special to somebody else. You don't do that to somebody else. That's where your money is. That's
You're
where
saying don't have somebody else manage your social media if you're a small business person?
create it. Don't
Create.
ask somebody else create. The actual delivery of it or putting it on putting it on the various sites and doing that stuff.
Process.
You could have process people do that.
Mhm.
But the creation, what makes your small business special is you. You don't give that away to anybody else. That's my opinion. What do you say, Crispin Cruz, after I've just yelled at everybody?
I like it. I like the excitement. I think you're right, Dan. I think where I have difficulty with it is that, man, being an entrepreneur, being a small business person in this world right now, wearing so many different hats, you have to have the one word that I live by every single day, and that's hustle, baby. I mean, you have got to have the hustle. Like you have got to have the drive, and you better, if you're not organized, you better either hire that person to help you stay like hyper organized in your business, because if you're going to be, running your business, making payroll, going out to meet with clients, and then doing the work, and then also try to drive, your brand through social and try to get more at bats and try to get more clients. I'm telling you, that's a big haul. That's a big haul. And so there's just there's a lot there to do. And the entrepreneurs that are listening to this podcast or that might be watching it right now, I mean, I'm sure I'm getting a lot of these, the head shakes, because I know what it's like in my business. I mean, up late, or I'm up late and up early. My father used to call it, he said, "You better sleep fast, son. You better sleep fast." Right? That's what my father used to say. And so I hear what you're saying, but you better be as committed to doing that as you heard in Dan Jordan's voice just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, well, it's committed. It's committed to yourself. It's committed to yourself in your own success. And really, that takes a bit of courage too. A lot of people, myself included, I'll talk to me, aren't willing to say what you want. You feel like almost boastful for yourself. I want this. Well, who am I? A lot of people have this imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Who am I to think I should get that or I should be that? And you could sabotage yourself very quickly. How do you avoid doing that, Crispin Cruz? And but you do have an advantage over us because you have an exceptionally large head.
Thank you. I think that's probably
Yeah,
that might be part of it. That might be part of it. And that's not the first time I've heard it.
That's a rule. All guests on our show
It's
need
not
to
the
have
first
bigger
time I've
head
heard it in
size.
that context either,
Yeah.
to be honest. So I think it's, I don't know, Dan, you know, I think my philosophy on that has changed. And maybe more recently in the past, 6 to 8 years. Because when I say I'm blessed, and I feel that way, I'm blessed, to do what I love doing every day and making an incredible living at it. I mean, I don't think of it as work anymore. I mean, it's just, and I think that maybe that's one advantage that I have to combat what you were just talking about, is that what really gets me going. I was talking with one of my clients yesterday who had asked me to come out and have some appetizers and a couple adult beverages last night with him. And we were just talking about strategy and what's going to happen, the rest of 2023 with his business and where he wants to see us go in 2024. And, we're talking about it. And he's like, it just seems like you get so much enjoyment out of what you're doing. And I said, you couldn't be more right. Like the love that I have for this, for this thing we call, sales and growth but what I'm really passionate about is when I see business owners and they're like, wow, it's working. Like it's working and we're getting to our goals and we're seeing the results. And, maybe they even thought they didn't know how we were going to get there, or they maybe even thought, well, this is a big ask here. I'm not sure we're going to make this goal. And then they start to see us meet the goals and exceed the goals, and just the excitement and seeing how it's life-changing for them. And then those that I mentor and train, seeing how I impact their lives, like that's what gets me going. Like it's not what keeps me up at night. It's what gets me up in the morning. Like that's where I land on that, if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, no, I think listen, it's a great place, but it's a great world to be in when you're able to do it. But life is sales, so it's the same thing. You might as well be good at it. All right. Yep. So what's going on here with this year? The website. What's going on with your family? So you got a wife and a bunch of kids. How are they doing?
They're doing well. Thanks for asking. Yeah, they're doing well.
By the way, when I first met Chris, you'd been married once before, and then he had this, and then Wendy. And so I asked him. I said, "She's the new one, right?" And Cruz says to me, "Yeah, she likes to be referred that way."
It's always a way to endear yourself to.
It really is. Yeah. She hit it off with Dan right away. Yeah,
that's right.
We all do. Yeah, it was the nicest things.
Yeah, but thanks for asking. And that's and also, being a business owner and entrepreneur, what's that given me? It's given me the time to spend more time with the family. It gives me time to coach my son's baseball team. It gives me time to do, the things that I really love doing as well on the family perspective, on the family side. And yeah, it gets crazy. It gets, because again, as an entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur, I'm always being pulled in different directions. But family's so vitally important as well. And I think, we heard so many conversations about work-life balance. But when work doesn't feel like work anymore, it's a lot easier to balance it. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, that's right. Jeffrey Gitomer used to say, when you do what you love, every day is the same. They're all holidays. That's it.
I love it.
And
It's
you're
very
doing all this stuff, Chris, and because you're pulled in a million different directions, you just decided that why not do another thing? So you started a podcast.
That's right.
So let's talk to us a little bit about the Pipe Podcast and how
Thank
that's
you.
going for you.
And you know what PIPE stands for? Everybody knows it. It's perpetual indifference, proliferating excellence.
That was not bad.
I can't believe it. I can't
Not even
believe
close.
you remembered it. You can't believe you remembered it, Dan. That is crazy. So, yeah, thanks for asking, Chris. So, the Pipe Podcast that's been another whirlwind. It really has been, and I think our viewers and listeners, they're getting a lot out of it. I've been able to book some incredible guests, and that has been a lot of fun too, because I get so caught up in them, Chris. It's like crazy. I'll have if you know anything about me, I script it out. I have questions, there's a process to it, of course. Right. And so, but I get so excited about the guests that we have on, and I'm learning from them. Like, I'm learning from Patrick Tinney. I'm learning from Bernadette McClellan. I'm learning from every single person that's on this Pipe Podcast. And, just the gems that Mark Hunter, Larry Levine, just kind of drop out there. It's just been awesome. And I've been greeted into that community with open arms. And that has been also just super fun. But I think that piece of it, has surprised me a little bit. But Pipe, the Pipe Podcast, which I host, stands for sales process, sales initiatives, sales prospecting, and experiences. So that's what we focus on. We focus on those 4 things, and we try to draw some of that out of, our guests. And it's been a great ride. Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it's going. And I told you this, Chris. I have been pleasantly shocked by the quality, minus Dan Jordan, of guests that you've had on the show. No, but truly, you don't see that. You really don't. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Dan said earlier. Is like, you've got to take control of this thing. And and of course be patient with it, right? I mean, it still is a long game, everyone. Podcasting, content creation is a long game. It took Dan forever to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I should know, because for as long as I've known him, he was begging for that. But he got there, and I think the perseverance that you've had on this thing, the consistency, and that's. If you're delivering good content, it doesn't matter if you got 10 subscribers or 10 million. If you've got good stuff and people find you, they're going to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been good. And we've got our kind of, staple. We've got this people that are just in our stable, that are staple listeners, and that just come every.
There's been some outside of the
week.
Stable. There's been a few outside of the stable.
We got a few. That's right. We got a few. So it's been
the fence got broken. How the fence sometimes goes. Somebody slips underneath the fence.
That's right.
No, but it was good though.
Yeah, that's great.
That's very cool. And no, I think it's a great show. And by the way, it's available for everybody to see. You don't have to catch it live. It's great live, but you can catch it, forever in the car. And by the way, that's what people do right now. I just listen to stuff in the car. You can get such a great education just by listening to sales podcasts, while you're going from appointment to appointment, instead of, watching crazy stuff, and instead of watching the news, do something that'll help you. There's great people out there. All you have to do really is go to the Chris Stone site, or the Cast Ahead site, and go, all his people are unbelievable. Very good. Big players.
Well, and he kind of chuckled about it. So I'm going to put him on the brick for a minute, but I'll tell you, I couldn't have done it without Chris. Like, when I say that he is the Oz behind the curtain, for the Pipe Podcast, he most definitely is. And, he brings so much value to the show. his connections in the industry, just the things that he's done have been also remarkable for us. So if any of the listeners or viewers out there are thinking about, maybe it's time for me to take that leap and get my own podcast producer and somebody that can really help me make this happen, you better be calling that guy on this screen, Chris Stone, because he's going to help you get there, and he's going to help you get there more quickly than you would ever be able to do on your own.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
That's right.
Those
And
are kind
really creating that content, that's exactly how you sell in the social media world there. You just put out content and you will attract people, like-minded people that are into your stuff. And when they will contact you. And then it's up to you. If they contact you and say, hey, I like your stuff, well, you connect with them and then you follow up. It's an easy follow-up when someone connects to your stuff and digs your content. And that leads you to a million different places. If everybody has, a 200-person sphere of influence, every person that likes your stuff, you just gain 200 people that you can touch and with your stuff, and then you could prospect for. And so it's up to you. This show is called LinkedIn Prospecting. Chris, what are you doing now with that content on LinkedIn to get more business?
Yeah, so a lot of
car buying public.
Yeah, thank you. So, so first off, what I did was, at least for my own business, is I hired a sales operations director, and what she does is she keeps me straight. Right? She does all of my scheduling. She does everything. She's done behind the scenes, and that was a really important hire for me. Because it just got to a point that administratively, I wasn't going to be able to do all the things I wanted to do and continue to grow the business. And so if you don't have one, get one, because it will literally change your life. Okay. So that's first, but then moving into now what we're doing, right now we're using a lot of the LinkedIn Navigator tools. And then we're going to be initiating, messaging to a very specific target of prospects that we're going after that kind of meet our criteria of clients that we would like to have. And then we're going to put together messaging and then also attach a small video message, a small personal video message to that as well. And so we believe that that's really how we're going to get the highest level of engagement with potential prospects that are out there that are looking for more than just a page full of information. And then you as the salesperson is hoping that something resonates with them. We're hoping to make a better connection with them through video and try to see if we can get then more responses than what we typically would get just out of a normal everyday campaign.
Now, Dan, you've been doing this for a while now, and I think to someone and myself who's a lot more of a casual LinkedIn person, I am on there every day. I'm I'm checking some of the boxes, so to speak, but I'm not super active. And I know the way you time block, you're probably not on there too long, but you're definitely doing it. But what I see is a lot of in-mail spam, I guess you could call it, where people are hitting me with stuff, sometimes hitting me with video. But you've been able to create something that is pretty effective in terms of open rate, in terms of responses. And so, to someone who hears what Chris is talking about here and looking at that strategy, what have you done with what you're doing on LinkedIn, with the videos, with that kind of stuff, so that people aren't looking at it like, oh God, why? I don't even know, like, why is this coming in? I don't understand what this is. What are some of the sort of, more tactical sort of strategies that you've used that are successful? Yeah,
you see now, Crispin Cruz, this is why you keep Chris Stone on the board. He brings. That's why you do it. You wanted to stick him in the back. Now, so remember the
he's got a face for radio.
Face for radio. Thank you. You guys are, the compliments are just, I'm drinking water out of the fire hose here.
Marketing is said it before. It's 3 parts. It's your message going to your direct target marketplace, and then there's the media. And the media is just the delivery system of that message to that target market. So don't worry about the video yet until you get your message right. Don't worry about how you get. If you got the wrong message to the wrong marketplace, who the hell cares how it gets there? Doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen. So it starts with the psychological triggers to get somebody interested in clicking on that thing. So you're utilizing lead magnet type verbiage. Typically, when a company becomes your size, Chris Stone, they're tending to have problems with managing their time and all their activities.
Sure.
I made a quick video here for you regarding a virtual assistant you might find interesting. Click here if you want to set up a 10-minute thing. Boom, and they hit that video. But when if you're not interested, if you're not that size company, it's not interesting, you probably won't click on it. Who cares? It's no rejection marketing. But you have to make that video once, and then your job is to find the perfect prospect that you think might be interested in that, in that particular problem. And so I just made that off the top of my head. But so the way you get it there, the way you get that email to them is, or that video to them is one of 5 or 6 different ways. You can put something on LinkedIn. You could put that video on LinkedIn, and then just in LinkedIn, press share, and it goes to the people that you want it to, and you change the one. That's one way to do it. You could send it to emails to people. The most effective way, if you could somehow get somebody's cell phone number, is go ahead and make a video. And I did it today to somebody. I hooked up with an HR director of Georgia Pacific. Hey, I met your husband out, blah, blah, blah. There we go. Get a call back right away. Just like that. Or get it, a return. We're not interested, but okay, whatever. You get to them in a nice way. Quickest way to get started, I made a video about it this morning, is just stop texting happy birthday to your friends and send them a video. Just text them a video saying happy birthday. And it's a quick way to get started with it. But again, the video and the delivery system is much less important than the traditional profit triggers that you have to put in your verbiage when they go there. I've been using that.
Hey, Dan, I know we're running out of time, but will you just talk a little bit about, because this is something that, you taught me, and that has been so valuable for my company and my organization as well. And even those that I serve, is getting you're getting your company to focus in, even if it's in this first introduction, even if it's in this, if it's in the proposal, if it's in any correspondence as it pertains to potentially obtaining, this prospect and getting them to become a client, is how important is it, Dan, to talk about outcomes? I'd just like you to talk a little bit about that, because that was a lesson that you taught me, and that I've been focusing on now, for the last 2 years, is really, really focusing on the outcome of what your service or what your product, or how that's going to impact, your potential buyer.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a mind shift that you have to get, where you have to stop thinking about yourself. I meet a lot of people. And by the way, if anyone's out there and they want to get these ideas, go ahead and I talk to 15 minutes with anybody. I don't care who you are. So just go ahead and just hook me up, and we'll talk, a little video call. But that's a big mind shift. You want to get away from, I want to sell this, or I want to create this, or I have a lot of speakers that come to me, I want to speak on this. Well, how conceited are you? Who the hell cares what you want? Doesn't
That's
matter.
great.
You want somebody to pay you to talk about basket weaving? Who cares? I know you like basket weaving. That's awesome. Have a good time, but don't expect me to pay. I don't want basket weaving. So find out what your prospect wants. Now, if you don't know who your prospect is, find the ones with money. For someone to be a customer, they need three things. They need and desire, they need decision-making ability, and they need to have money. And so go to the industries where people have some money, and so then you can work on the other two things. And then once you have an industry that has money, let's say insurance, find out, if you're selling to insurance people, what are insurance people, what's their problem? And then when you're there, then you can come up with the pitch. And the pitch is, hey, if you're like most of the customers that you work with, you want like three things for your business. You want to get additional customers coming in on a monthly basis. You want these customers to be qualified. And most of all, you don't want to pay an arm and a leg for them to come to your door. Am I pretty close to the truth? And I got you nodding your head for the outcomes that you want 4 times without me even saying what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know it now. If I work, you kind of know what you're going to get if you work with me. Now, if you get them, if you've done the front end and they kind of like you already and they trust you and they believe you, they won't even ask, how are you going to do that?
Right.
They don't care how. And the biggest mind shift that has to be changed with salespeople when they're presenting, the biggest problem is they get stuck telling people how they're going to accomplish what they're going to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to say that. And if somebody's asking you all those things, how do you do this? And how many times do you do this? And, in what different delivery systems are you going to do? All that stuff. One thing for sure, you do not have the decision maker. The decision maker is going to ask you about outcomes. The process person, the internal person who's the information gatherer, that person is going to ask you about all that other stuff.
Or they're investigating how to do it themselves, right?
Yeah. In which case you could do. So what do you do, Crispin Cruz? I'll tell you what I do. If someone's asking me all those questions, I'll just ask and say, it's interesting you're asking that. Let me ask you, why do you want to know that?
That's right. It's a perfect time to reverse, right? Yeah. It's a perfect time to reverse. So selfing statement. Hey, Dan, I hear that a lot. And hey, before I answer, there's a reason why you asked me that question. Why is that important?
Oh, so strong. By the way, Crispin Cruz and I go on sales calls together. We were talking about the other day.
If you guys walk in my front door, I'm like, just tell me how much.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can afford you guys.
As we were walking out, I said, Cruz, people they seem entertained when we're there. Like they love it. They're having the best time. Yeah, we were at a call and the guy said, so how much? Let's talk about money and all this stuff, whatever. And Chris started talking and I interrupted. And I said to the guy, I said, hold on for a second. You should know he's closing now. He's in the close. I actually said that. Did you remember that?
It's so good. It's so good. And he's like, oh, I know. He's like, I know.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I know. Like, it was so great. It was just great. Yeah. No, so fun. But that's what it's supposed to be about. So maybe if there's one thing that we end on today is, man, it's supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. Like it is supposed to be fun. Like if you're not walking out the door, if you're not like in the elevator, coming down the elevator, if you're not just clicking that Zoom and when you get off the Zoom call, if you're not like chuckling to yourself, if you're not laughing to yourself, if you're not like just having a good time, like if you're not doing those things, then you're not doing it right. Then you're not doing it right. Like it's supposed to be fun, right?
I have two things. I brought this on because I read my daily goals every day, and then I have my things and my personal. But right after live to 140 years old, I'm gonna die. By the way, August 11th, 2105. I figure if I don't make that goal, who will know? And so it's the perfect thing. But anyway,
you may not even know.
Anyway, that line is, it says pray to God and then have fun. Like that's my goal for the day. Yeah. And just have fun.
Yeah.
And it should be fun.
That's right. Well, I'll tell
we
you
have
what,
this one life.
I've met my goal on today because I was able to be with you on this
Yeah, that's right.
podcast.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
on this. So that's how it goes.
Thank
Well,
you.
listen, this is great. So that is a perfect way to end. Listen, your sales life and your real life are much better if they're together. You don't go to work when you're a true salesperson. I accidentally found this dream, and I'm blessed I did. Look at put Kylie Scholler?
Kyle.
Or Scholler? What?
Kyle Scholler. I actually
Kyle
found the
Scholler.
stream.
Oh, I said Kylie. This is my dyslexia. I changed. It's a guy, right? It's a guy's name, right?
Thanks for
Okay.
being on, Kyle.
I
Thanks for
screwed the
being
whole
on.
thing up.
Thank you.
Yes, the whole idea is, listen, it's time to have fun. You know my thing. If you want to be a better salesperson, first be a better person. And a better person gives off energy that's well received to the public. You have a moral authority to make life a little bit better from everybody you meet. People either make the place happier or sadder. There's no in between. You're never even Steven. You have a chance right now when you get off this thing to see the next person, smile at them, make them smile, and you've made their day better, because it's impossible not to be in a good mood when you're smiling, even if you're spending your time with Crispin Cruz and Chris Stone. Thank you so much for making this as good as it gets. Crispin Cruz, you're the best. Chris Stone, no one is better than you at what you do.
Stop.
While Kyle Scholler accidentally found this and is blessed that he did, we all are blessed when we found Chris Stone. You guys are awesome. Eat well, live long, and prosper. And go get them.
Go get them.
Go get them.